everybody, welcome to today's English lesson. Today we are learning about a new style of writing. Last term we learned about persuasive writing, and this term we are learning about narrative writing. I think you are all going to love this one. So, by the end, you understand the genre of narrative writing. You should be able to understand and recall the structured layout of a narrative text. And the activity, you should be able to correctly label the structure and layout of a narrative text. Okay, so what is narrative writing and what is its purpose? Narrative writing is just really storytelling. It's story writing. And you guys have actually all been doing that in your free writing copies this year. The purpose of narratives is to tell a story. Narratives or stories can be written in many forms. For example, they can be myths, fairy tales, science fictions, adventure, historical, mystery, horror, comedies, or funny stories, fantasy stories, lots and lots of stories. Can you think of any stories or narratives that you are reading at the moment or ones that you've read in the past? It could be Harry Potter, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or it could be Captain Underpants. Lots and lots of stories out there. Now, narrative writing, in a really simple way, follows the same structure. So most stories have a main character who has a problem. Then they find a way to solve the problem, and finally, they all live happily ever after. Can you think of any stories you have read that follow this structure? I have one in my mind. You remember the novel we read, The Owl Who Was Afraid of the Dark? Well, if we think about Plop, who was the main character, his problem was that he was afraid of the dark. Then he had to find a way to solve this problem. He talked to lots of different people who told him lots of things about how dark was wonderful. And then in the end, he wasn't afraid of the dark anymore and he lived happily ever after. Now, that's just one example. There are lots of different examples out there. But to make our stories really interesting and exciting, we need to add a little bit more to our structure. So, the structure of a narrative is really important. Here is a full layout of a narrative story structure. We will use this layout when we are planning our narrative writing. So the first thing, the beginning of your story, will have something called the orientation. Now, orientation is the part where we learn about the main characters and the setting. So you might think of words of who, what, when, where, why when you're writing your orientation. Then the middle of the story has a series of events which also have a problem. So the characters might be taking part in different events, and then normally a problem might arise or appear. The problem is usually a big one in the story that leads to finding the solution. Okay, so the character needs to try and find a solution to the problem, just like Plop did. Then the very end is the resolution. That means that the problem or the complication is resolved, it's solved, and the narrative story ends. Now, what we're going to do is read a story together and see, can we put the structure of it in the right places? So again, we've orientation, we've series of events, we've problems, and we've the resolution. So the story is A Poor Shot. Once upon a time, there was a young prince called William. He lived in a castle with his two young brothers. Okay, so already we're at the beginning of the story. We have a character called William and his two young brothers, and they lived in a castle. So I already know that this is the orientation, so I'm going to put it right here beside us. Then, the next part. The father, the king, often took the boys out hunting. Prince William hated hunting because his arrows always missed their targets. His brothers laughed and made fun of him. William tried and tried and tried. He even set up a practice target, but he did not get any better. One day when he was out in the woods, an old man came along. He watched as William missed the target again and again. The poor old man looked very cold and hungry. Prince William gave him some food and his warm coat. The old man thanked him and gave him a small round stone. He said that if William kept it in his pocket, he would shoot well. Now, this is a series of events, isn't it? And also, there's a problem. The problem here is that he can't shoot the target very well. He's not hitting it very well. So that's his big problem. Now, at the end, we've got a resolution. So the old man gave William a stone. It was magic. I want you to read the resolution by yourselves at the end. And then I want you to have a look at the activity and see, can you